Hi, and welcome to the Reiki from the Farm podcast, brought to you by me, Pam Allen-LeBlanc from Hidden Brook Farm. I am a scientist, a businesswoman, and a licensed Reiki master teacher with the International Center for Reiki Training. Each week in this podcast, you'll be entertained as you learn about a wide variety of relevant Reiki topics, helping you become a more knowledgeable and effective Reiki practitioner. We caution you, though, this podcast may also dramatically improve your life, and we are so happy that you're here. Welcome, everyone, to this week's podcast. I have with me my animal Reiki colleagues, my friends, my mentors, Colleen Benelli and Robyn Benelli. Welcome, ladies. I'm so happy you're here.
Oh, thank you. We're glad to be here too.
Thanks, Pam. Yeah, I'm very glad to be here.
Yeah, and it's so funny because we haven't had an occasion to see each other in quite some time, and recently we've been together a fair bit, which I'm pretty happy about. So glad you're here. And guys, we're going to be talking today about sovereignty and inner authority because there's a lot of stuff going on, and it can be really easy to get tangled up in it and to feel hopeless and helpless. But we always have Reiki, and there are ways through. So we're going to dive into that. Before we go too much further, I just want to let everybody know that March 25th and 24th, Kathleen and I will be starting two business courses, Start Your Reiki Business and Grow Your Reiki Business. It'll be a 6-month course to really see you through that process, and we'd love to have you join us. Also, at the end of March, Tracy and I have Healthcare Reiki in person in Connecticut. Please join us. It'll be also in person, both in person and online on a weekend. And then in April, I have a full lineup of level 1 and 2 and masters for Reiki, level 1 and 2 and masters for animal Reiki, and level 1 and 2, 3 and masters for animal communication. And those are both online and in person here at the farm. Colleen and Robyn, what do you guys have coming up? You always have so much on the go.
Pam, it just occurred to me that when you were saying Kathleen, you meant your daughter, Kathleen.
I do mean my daughter, Kathleen.
That's so exciting. You and I haven't talked for a long time. I know you see Colleen more often than you see me, but you and I haven't talked for a long time. So I didn't know that you were still doing work together. So that's really awesome.
We hadn't been, Robyn. She took some time off to finish her MBA.
Okay.
And she finished her MBA in January. So she agreed to use her MBA along with mine to help people with their businesses. And Robyn and I've watched Robyn and Colleen work together as a mother-daughter team, and I've been a little jealous, I'm not going to lie. And just hopeful that might someday happen with my daughter, and I'm really delighted that with these courses it is. Yeah. Could I ask you, I think everybody knows you two, but could I ask you to introduce yourselves and just as well and just let us know what's going on in your world?
Why don't you start, Robyn?
Okay. As Pam said, we are a mother-daughter team, and we are partners in our business Reiki Lifestyle. So not everybody knows us, Pam. So they're probably wondering why I asked that question. I was really excited because being a mother-daughter team, I was happy to hear that Pam and Kathleen are working together because I know you have in the past, and so that's why I was excited to hear that. We are outside of Portland, Oregon, in the Pacific Northwest of the US, and we have a full spectrum of a Reiki business. We do classes and we do online distance Reiki share, and we have a podcast as well. So we're always up to things. We teach all of the Usui Holy Fire 3 human Reiki classes, and then, as you said before, we're colleagues and co-authors with the ICRT Animal Reiki classes, and we teach those as well. Yep, Colleen, I'm sure you have things to add to that.
I think that completed the different things that we do. But anyway, I'm Colleen Benelli. I introduced myself. That's what we were doing. I just went so quickly into listening about what we were going to talk about today. And then as soon as you talked about your courses that you are starting, I was thinking of how much our topic of inner authority and navigating through creating right now and all of the Reiki things about it, that it makes so much sense that it's even involved in a business discussion. Inner authority in this moment to continue with business practices, to continue creating, manifesting when it's challenging outside and inside. So anyway, I actually was so right into that brain space. So anyway,
We're regularly not very good at introducing ourselves, but
right.
Colleen is also a senior licensed Reiki master teacher for the ICRT. And what's your official title, Colleen?
What is my official title? Director of the Licensed Teacher Training Program and Executive Director of the ICRT. And yeah, I think that covers it.
And
Along with Pam, who is
I'm in the
also
licensed teacher
co-director.
training program, so I'm working
right.
on licensure.
And I was so happy, Robyn, when you went into that program. I was really hoping that you would. So that made me.
Speaking of inner authority, though, having to listen to what's right for me was a part of this Reiki sphere. It took me a little while to listen for it. Also, to honestly, as a mother, my daughter's 9, of having to the practicalities of being able to actually accomplish the additional training with all of it too. So,
Yeah, it's over 1,000 hours of training. It's a lot, isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah. And also, Colleen, you're my mentor. You mentored me through the licensed master Reiki master teacher program and through the 1,000 hours of training. And I think I tested your patience more than once.
We
So
mentor each other always. Always, seriously.
we
That's so
always
true.
do. We always do.
Yeah.
Ladies, I'm so happy to have you here today. And for anyone listening, I'm just going to encourage you to go ahead and bring your hands together in Gasho and activate your Reiki energy, bringing in any symbols that you feel guided to listen with today, especially the emotional, mental, emotional symbol. I think that would be really helpful for our discussion. And just invite Reiki to bring you into your own sovereignty and your own inner authority and to help you listen to this podcast for the things that are important for you and the things that will be effective and useful and practical for you. Reiki can always help us listen and also it can help process some of the energies that could get in the way of our inner authority and of our sovereignty, even as we are tuned in to this discussion. So we invite that, and we invite our guides and the brothers and sisters of the light to join us. And so it is. Namaste. Wasn't
Thank you.
intending for that to be an invocation, and it turned into one, actually. But guys, I really wanted to have you here today because no matter where I turn, no matter what country I'm talking with, no matter where I'm looking these days, there are challenges. There are economic challenges, political challenges, interpersonal challenges. There's so much going on in people's families, in their communities, inside of ourselves. There's so much happening right now. And I know that we're at the end of one cycle. If we look at the Chinese New Year and we're stepping into another, and change can often be difficult, but it just seems to be more intense than at any other time that I can remember. I don't know if I don't think it's just me. I think it's happening for a lot of people. So just with this overload, with everything that's happening, I think that this is a really important time to focus on our own sovereignty. And I'm just wondering for you guys, what does that mean? When we talk about sovereignty, how would you describe that? What does that mean?
Robyn, do you want to start?
I think there's a lot of ways to think about sovereignty. When I know for us, when we talk about sovereignty, we talk a lot about spiritual sovereignty, that we are really outside of the influence of things that is not us, that's not our authentic self. And we can extrapolate that to all different things in our world on a mind, body, spirit aspect. So I think when we're talking about, if we're talking about the subject that you're talking about, Pam, when it comes to sovereignty and inner authority, which I know we're also potentially going to be speaking about today, how are we sovereign in our thoughts, not picking up the collective thoughts? How are we sovereign in our emotions? How are we sovereign in our bodies as far as like the physical blockages, the thought forms, right? That they can not just be our own thoughts, but that they can actually end up taking on an energetic body that's within ourselves that kind of ends up being a little stuck to us. How are we sovereign spiritually too? And I know this is a little bit different than like how we're applying these topics today, but when we're talking about spiritually, things like attachments and things like that is another aspect of sovereignty that we personally explore and talk about, that we actually have the divine right to be the only ones in our bodies. So any sort of intrusion or spirit attachment or things like that is another aspect in which we talk about sovereignty. I think we're applying the ideas a little bit differently here in this conversation today, but I didn't want to exclude that because it's something that we talk about pretty often.
Yeah, no, I think it's important, Robyn, for sure. And Colleen, what would you include in that?
That was so really well said, Robyn.
Yes.
Yes, believing that or being able to be the only one in my body, I think is really important. Also, I'm gonna take it into the inner authority is what keeps coming through. So I need to just let it come through.
That's my next question, Colleen.
Yeah, it's the inner authority. I think right now through all of it, it has been inner authority, outer authority is really are really some of the major energies at play in the world.
Yeah.
So we are in a crash of a time when, as you called it, a cycle, but we're talking at least thousands year cycle of outer authority being the dominant energy of the collective of everybody and the agreed upon way that we all operated. And now with this change of the age that is occurring right now, has been occurring, really even in my mind going back to, well, so even though I was a little bit young for the totality of the 60s, I was still right in there. So there was still this level of unrest and change. So that was really going back to it, that was the beginning of, wait, we are going to question this outer authority.
Hmm.
So we've been moving towards it. And then, as Robyn was saying, the spirituality of it, like the harmonic convergence in the 80s and the different movements of the earth and the universe and the life force and all of that has been happening. And we are in like the literal moment of the two meeting, an ending of the one and a new beginning of the next one. And so there's the pushback with it all on both sides. And there's intentional divisiveness by the powers that be. And so I think for myself, I look at my inner authority every day and I invite Reiki to do that about what is my role today? How do I make a difference? And how do I help in this moment? And probably the biggest thing that Robyn and I teach and work with all the time is, and I know you teach, is how Reiki does that for each of us individually. Because what that means for each person is the whole meaning of inner authority. But even on a personal level, I'm 69. I was absolutely born into the outside authority, but always had that pushback inside of me. Just wait a minute. I remember as early as second grade questioning authority with the Pope because I was raised Catholic and I was raised that it was like this huge sin if we ate meat on Friday. And I was in second grade when that changed. And I just remember going, who made him able to change that? That was not a sin. And then he did it again. And I was in fifth grade and we didn't have to wear hats anymore. And that was one of the parts I liked. Like, I liked the veil. So I was like, wait a minute. And lots of other times that I would say a lot of us can remember to the times that we've questioned authority. Also being raised by a very authoritarian father. So in addition, and again, common in my generation, it was very normal for our fathers to be very authoritative. And so bringing it all to today, I would say has been a lifelong journey. And it is probably to me the single, like we have certain levels of foundational benefits that Reiki brings to us. So I'm not putting them in a hierarchical level, but how Reiki empowers us to get to our inner authority, our own inner truth, our consciousness, the way we think. And Robyn, I think if you would talk a little bit about the beliefs that we talked about today and the releasing of the things that are in the way of that, some of the old stories and experiences, but most of all, how do you bring in your authentic authority? How do you activate it, know it, learn to trust it, believe it? And Reiki does that. The energy actually helps us with that. So when I think of sovereignty, there's so many levels of it and so many experiences of it in humanity and actually the earth itself. And so inner authority and how we get there, inner truth, and this tremendous change of the age. We are literally in it for anyone following astrology, or as you said, that the ending of the year of the snake and the moving into the fire horse. Even if you don't believe in it, you can feel it because it is there. It is an intense time. And how do we manage it? And how do we follow the guidance? And when I say that understanding your inner authority with Reiki, what that does for you is helps you to listen to yourself, know what is true for you, and then you can apply that to your daily life, your decisions, sometimes problem solving, other times innovation, or both at the same time. How do you stay in these moments right now when the distractions are very intense and move yourself into creativity? So, foundationally, inner authority is what supports that ability. It's like listening is another one, becoming a good being able to learn how to listen and what that actually means. Those are foundational benefits of working with Reiki. It develops that within us.
I love that direction, and I love that. And it makes me think that the inner authority, even with all the distractions, even with everything that is happening, and you pointed out that it's really highlighting the duality that exists. But when you talk about inner authority and the authentic inner authority, that makes me think we have a choice between, with the duality, we have a choice between love and fear. In fear, we would go into victim mentality. In love, we, as you said, create. And I never thought about that, but it occurs to me that's exactly what Kathleen and I are doing with that course. We recognize that the world needs more Reiki teachers and practitioners right now. And so, what can we do? And what we can do is use our MBAs to help people set that up in a way that would work for them. And so, thank you. Yeah, Robyn, Colleen asked if you would consider taking that a little further. I wonder where you would go with that.
I don't know what she was saying.
What'd you say?
I'm like,
Just on under authority, because
yeah, because the conversation also that we were having earlier is a little bit of a different idea of all of this, but I think with what, and if you were just saying, Pam, there's a couple of things, because earlier we're talking about how we haven't experienced times like these, but humanity has experienced a lot of times like these.
that's true.
And even in the last 100 years, like Colleen was talking about the
My
60s,
lifetime.
the 60s, you have multiple wars, you have World War II, World War I, you have multiple pandemics within those timeframes. I think right now it feels heavier for a couple of reasons. I think because we see it all day, every day. We are inundated with information between TV, between social media, between all of these things. We are inundated with people's experiences all day, every day, and they vary so much, because before we had a news program that was giving us information. We had a TV or a newspaper that was giving us an information, and it was one story a day. That's, maybe there was a couple in there. Right now, we are seeing all day, every day, we're experiencing this, and our bodies are, not only do I think like our bodies aren't meant for this basic, because of the eons of time that we have had not experiencing that and not absorbing that level of the collective experience. But I actually also think that we as a collective are getting more sensitive. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I actually mean that in a good way, speaking of changes of the age. And it is hard when we are in this time frame of one age to another, because we are bridge generations, and that is a lot of energy to hold, because we can see this future where these realities aren't, and we're holding that vision. But then, like you were saying, we have this duality of actual experience that is happening, that is making that those frequencies so challenged to rectify within our bodies. And with Gen Z, for example, I'm a millennial. With Gen Z, for example, how much more sensitive of a generation they are.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing. I don't mean it like, oh, they're too sensitive. I mean that in a positive way. I think it's really beautiful how much, even from my generation to their generation, it has switched. My generation isn't, I'm an older millennial, so maybe on the younger end of the spectrum, like they're more sensitive too, but my generation, we're more sensitive than Gen X. And then Gen Z is a lot more sensitive to us. But that's also what is needed for this future versions of ourself. And you want to talk about inner authority between Gen Z and then my daughter's Gen Alpha. She's all inner authority. Like, she scares me.
She scares
She
me.
is.
Your daughter
Yeah.
scares me
Yeah.
too.
She
She
rules
is.
me.
Yeah. Full on. This is what I think, this is how it is. And parenting that is okay, but also I don't want to suppress that. Like it's a good
Oh,
thing. But they're also more sensitive too. So you're seeing this and it's what like the planet needs. It's how we're obviously evolving. But we also have this like epigenetic memory that's a part of this. And if you think about like your parents, my grandparents' generation, like they were World War II, they were Korea, they were Vietnam, like they were, I know you were a little more Vietnam, Colleen. The point still stands
well, my
that,
parents, though.
yeah, your
Yeah.
parents, that they were in such a different reality than we are now. And they were less sensitive about these things. And now we are more sensitive. And so I think that as we are moving into this, it's part of the reason why it feels so tense for us because I'm sensitive. You're sensitive, I mean, and then they're sensitive. That is really a lot because if you think in the gist of humanity, we've probably actually had greater things happen, but like everybody took it on so much differently. And so I think that's a part of why it's feeling so hard between this aspect of we have to see this all day, every day. Boy, that is very challenging. So I think that's one of the things that I would like to bring into the conversation and that's beautiful. It's what's needed. It's what's going to bring us into the future. It's where we're headed, but it doesn't make being in this transition time any less easy.
I remember you wrote an article about millennials, and my kids are Gen Z, and but they've also been sometimes misidentified as millennials. And I can remember my son at work and this woman at one point going, "Oh, millennials."
Yeah,
I thought, yes,
yeah, I
millennials.
know.
You're
It's
right.
not to say we don't have our shortcomings. All our generations have our shortcomings. But it's funny because my older millennials, we're now becoming the bosses. And
Right.
it's funny to hear the dynamics between all of it,
I just keep going back
but
to
it's,
a picture of my youngest daughter who actually just turned 24 2 days ago. And I can remember her at 2 years old putting her hands on her hips and telling my mother, Baba, you're not the boss of me.
it's so true. And
And,
like
and
Gen
you
Alpha, they are alpha.
are,
I'll tell you what. Anyway, so speaking of inner authority, we probably better digress to the conversation at hand.
your spirit has always reminded me of that. And I watched your daughter and I said to Colleen one day, they always say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. You must have been quite something too.
It's a very maternal line that we have here.
I admit it.
You did admit it.
And my mother, her mother was a suffragette, and yeah, it goes a long way.
I love the context that you bring to things, both of you. And Robyn, you can always bring it in a way that causes me to look at it differently. And then you take it into so much more depth, the both of you. I love it. It's so helpful. And I'm curious if we think about inner authority. How is that different from things like ego, willpower, or just that need for certainty? What is the difference there?
Again, I think it's going to be individual for each person and what that means and how that expresses in their life and why they're here, what their purpose is, what it's meaningful. And so I think we all have different connections of our authority. And for me, I have had to spend a lifetime kind of asking that very question. And when is it my ego?
Mm.
And when is it that my ego and my inner authority are really well aligned? and I need them to be working together. So we have in the way that we think about it, or I think about it, is that we have a healed ego that has a really beneficial purpose. That's what we're born with, to stand in these bodies and be on the earth and how we function. So I bring it into also a very functional viewpoint. And then I think for me, it's always that ability to look inside and ask myself what that means in this moment, because it does make a difference in each moment.
Mm.
And there are times that we have different uses of authority and needs for authority and ways authority is expressed, and how each of us does that is going to be different. So for me, what that means and particularly at my age now, if I think about when I listen every day, how can I help in the world today? Because I care, we all care about that. And it is a significant part of my ego drive that I know I was born with. Like, I always cared about contributing to wellness on the earth, and then found Reiki as the pathway for me to do that for myself, and then also how I could share it. And it can be challenging every day to listen within and think, what is my role today? And what can I do in this moment? Because there are people really struggling and suffering, and it is challenging. And so, how do I find my own place in all of it? And so it's so different for each person that it's really, to me, about how do we use Reiki energy to discover it within? Like, how do we get to our own truth? And so, to bring it into what Robyn was talking about today, from my perspective, what I heard her say may be different than how she heard herself say it, but what I heard her say was really moving into the exploration and the invitation for this forward motion that we're moving into. So, for instance, I could look back at my inner authority and I can look at my wounds from it. I have them. We have religious wounds, got those, family wounds, ancestral wounds. There's plenty of wounds in the area of authority. And then collectively, what the world is going through in this moment about authority and the choices that are made by a few for the many. And so we look at all of those areas, but everybody's place in that is going to be different. And so I just think of, how do I personally use Reiki energy, because it is what I have found helps.
Mm.
Like, helps me align with what that means for me. So right now, today, what that means for me is stay stable, be kind. That is what I can do in this moment. And I can hold that energy through all of my various expressions of what I do every day. That's like a very deep. We started with stay stable, be kind at the beginning of the pandemic in our distance Reiki share. And so it's always going into the empowerment of the questioning rather than the wounding. The wounding is there, I'm not bypassing it. And the wounding is current, so I'm not bypassing it. But what heals that wounding is by moving through into the possibilities, your opportunities, to, just as you said with your book, that what you can do is help people succeed in their Reiki business. And so that's why that is your truth. And then I have mine. And even though Robyn and I work together every day, she has hers. And Robyn, I'm going to turn it over to you.
The thing is, I don't really think about inner authority of being as being right or wrong. And to me, that's where ego comes in. I think of inner authority as your inner truth. And we might have this sense of right versus wrong, maybe. And also that is different for everybody. So it, for me, is more of what is my inner authority is what my inner truth is, as opposed to like from that outside of I'm right, you're wrong
Yeah.
idea. So that would be the one thing that I would say as far as ego is concerned. And I agree with Colleen about the healed ego. But I also think that a part of it is when you are in your own inner truth and your own inner authority, I feel like feels like there's a lot more safety to be open to others' viewpoint if we're talking about the right versus the wrong. I think maybe I don't think that came out in the way that I meant it. I think that it's like I feel like when you're in safety of your own inner authority, you're able to be a bit more open
Yeah.
to not to like just to the world. And to me, that also comes into being in more of a healed ego state. Can I view the world from a place of compassion? When you're talking about love and fear, can I look at the world events from a place of love rather than going into the place of anger? Because anger begets anger, right? I know MLK said hate begets hate, but anger also begets anger. So if I can pull myself out of those streams and I can put myself into the stream of love with the viewpoint towards everyone, even though that is challenging, does that add more love into the situation? That's not easy every day. It's not realistic every day. There's those kinds of aspects. For me, I would say that is one of the places that has been an inner authority place right now, is that being able to stand in the place of I am going to add more love to all in this situation, because that's what this situation needs right now. That's what it all needs right now. Because if I'm sending my anger towards somebody or something, how are they going to receive that? Just with more anger? How is that going to be received with more anger? And so I think that I probably also am able to try to get to that place with the Reiki energy. But I also think because that's just a part of what is my inner authority and my inner truth, that is what adds more love to the world. Now, somebody else is going to, as Colleen has been saying, somebody else is going to have a fully different inner truth around that. And to me, I also fully support that. And that's okay, because all of us get to, if we're all being able to stand in that, is that a place that is helpful to everybody, because then that gives somebody else a little more safety to be in their own inner truth around all of it. So to me, that's where the difference lies, is for ego versus inner truth are two separate things to me, or inner authority. They're two separate things to me.
I really like your approach, Robyn. You're essentially stepping out of the duality. You're just
Trying.
you're just stepping. We're all trying, and occasionally I can remember,
Yeah.
Colleen, one time you said every once in a while I say I'm going in.
Going in, deep and diving.
But yeah, and I think that's the most effective thing that we can do is look at what's happening and ask, you've both described it so beautifully, how can I contribute? And coming from a place of love. And anytime we choose to step out of the anger, step out of the hate, step out of the fear, and even the fight, flight, freeze, fawn cycle, we're choosing to step outside of the duality. And from the time that Holy Fire Reiki came in, it told us that was possible, that it was possible to step up and out of the duality in certain areas. And yeah, I really love where you took that.
I think, Pam, I would add to that because, again, for each person, it's unique. And so you see, like in your own case, where you were called to be involved with politics. And yeah, there is a certain amount of determination, and I don't know if it's anger, but I'm sure moments of it.
Or moments of anger.
And
Or moments when I
so,
couldn't step out of the duality, Colleen.
yeah, or you're bringing the energy into the duality that way. So I think that's really the message as much as anything is it's just going to be so unique for each person. Like really allowing it to come in and show you what it is for you.
Yeah, I agree because that's needed too.
Yeah.
You have to experience the duality when you're in politics.
Yeah. It's probably
So,
helpful to be noticing it.
yeah, so it is, and there's a certain level of you have to also be in, you might not get very far with my perspective on how this all works anyways. You do also have to do the things that it takes to be. So that's with what Colleen is saying, it's that's different for each of us, and how we're called to, I think, move towards a more harmonious collective.
That is what we're being called to do right now. And
Mm.
so I think that is one of the reasons there are those of us that it is actually our role and our job to add that energy into the energy of the planet so that it physically exists. If you believe that thought forms lower energies, it's easy to recognize that the lower energies exist. So do the higher energies, and we add to them through those intentions. And I can give a quick example of one of the ways that it showed up for me. And this was back, it's been a while, but an early teaching of it when I went, oh, I get this, was when they had the oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico. And everybody was so angry at the people that caused the spill because it was human. And I remember being shown by Reiki in the moment, wait a minute, all that, the people who have to fix this are the people that caused it. And if they are just getting rained upon with anger and hate and condemnation and shame, I need to add love into it so they can find the solutions. Like love is where that's going to exist in a better, more powerful way. Those higher frequencies of innovation and creativity and invention that they needed to do in that moment. And for me, that was then how I could help because in the moment, it's I can't fly down there and go help physically for all the people and the animals and everything affected. Oh, here's what I can do is send that energy to them. And there are going to be the times that it's called to be different than that. Even right now, there's so much to do. It's like you have to pick what you really truly can do. And I think so many of us in the Reiki fields, we are called to be, as Robyn called it, the bridge generation, to add the stability of these frequencies, these practices, this ability to the planet, to the thought forms, to the streams of energy, because we also co-create it. Us.
Resemble our inner world.
Yeah, and that's why we talk so often about how we apply it all, because it really does need a very practical application. And so speaking of that, with these astrological changes that are happening, it is very definitely moving into a lot of practical application with consciousness. So that is where we are headed, is being able to access our consciousness in practical ways that benefit daily life.
You make me think, and when you mentioned the politics, that I would get angry. I would be really
Yeah.
angry and
Yeah.
frustrated about things that were not fair. especially fairness. That was always something that triggered me. And but Reiki would very quickly come in and the conversation would shift to, okay, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
And then it very quickly went, what can I do? And it was different in every situation. Sometimes it was just shining a light on it and letting people know that, hey, there's this unfair situation and or condition, and maybe you probably weren't aware of it. And then sometimes it was actually getting the ball rolling to do something with it. And so it's almost the frustration, the anger, it's just pointing you at something. And then
Yeah.
you can make a conscious choice to pause and invite Reiki in and to move you into that practical solution that you were talking about, Colleen. Yeah, this is so great. We talked, Robyn, you talked about empaths and highly sensitive people, and they're feeling everything that's happening, and the younger generations being even more sensitive. That external influence, other from the collective consciousness, fear, expectations, agendas, how would you both say that Reiki can help us with that? What is a practical solution there?
The there's several. One first things is to notice what is yours and what is others. So that idea of, and I know so many empaths know this, so I know there's people out there that have heard this, but that observation versus absorbing it. So observing instead of absorbing.
Mm,
So you observe that is happening rather than taking it on, rather than absorbing it. And sometimes it takes a minute to observe it and then to realize, oh, this isn't mine. I can let this go with it. And it doesn't mean that you don't have the compassion. It doesn't mean you don't have that, but you don't take it on as your own. So that's that awareness. And that's actually a skill. So that's the thing, is that it's like everybody says that, but it's not something that we can just do like that. It's a skill, and it's a skill that you build over time. There's a few things that you can do with Reiki, creating a filter, because when you're an empath, many people build armor because that's what is protecting them, and that is understandable. However, the armor can be hard, and it can be hard to let the good things in too,
right.
right? So with the armor, and it probably has come from a lifetime of experience of, I need to protect myself. So it's about thanking that armor for protecting you. Thank you. But it's also about, let's create a different field that also allows the good in. And that's where Reiki can come in, can create, when you go out during the day, you're going to the grocery store, put a field of Reiki around you. If you forget, use the distance symbol to send it back to yourself. Use the distance symbol sending forward to yourself. I think that sometimes we just have to put the phone down, turn the TV off, and go touch grass for a minute. We got to sometimes stop that doom scrolling. We all do it. So I'm not saying I'm not, I'm definitely guilty of that. When I notice that it's really affecting me, I'm like, okay, I am putting that down, and I am going to go do something that is more conducive for my soul.
Right.
Reiki can help in that discernment with that, when you are like, why do I feel this way? How can I not get out of that? It's, oh, I need to remove myself from these frequencies and go put myself in a different frequency, help myself ground, things like that. And that's another thing that you can do. I know putting your feet on the earth is hard during this time of year for many climates. So if you can touch a tree, touch something, touch nature, that can really help to discharge that energy from your body. It's another really big grounding practice. Or if you can get a grounding sheet, you can get those on Amazon, things like that. That can be helpful. So there's a lot of grounding techniques that won't go into all of them. You can certainly research those, but that can be really helpful when you're just feeling that energy in your body and you're having a hard time getting rid of it. Sometimes that is a solution. If you work with spirit guides, call in your spirit guides to surround you, because their love, their divine love, and feeling that energy, having them help you to filter the energy can be super helpful as well. So transmuting the energy, filtering the energy so that the hard and negative stuff doesn't reach you, and allowing the good in is helpful. And then sometimes, honestly, I was telling my friend this the other day, sometimes you just need to feel your feelings and you need to let yourself feel them. Because she was like, I'm having such a hard time. And I'm like, be in it for today. Then just allow yourself to go there. As you'd said, Colleen said that earlier. Holding it off and holding it off and holding it off can be so exhausting, and it keeps your emotional cup or field. And if you're not watching this, I'm pointing to the top of the head. It's this idea of that emotional cup that's full of water. And it's like one drop can just make the whole thing spill over. And when you're holding it right there, it's this constant idea of that one drop being present, right? It's one drop. But if you just allow yourself to feel, and if you cry, let yourself cry, allow that release to happen, so that then, okay, tomorrow, after I've felt my feelings, tomorrow I'm going to be able to be in a different place. And we all know how that feels after a good cry, especially if we've been holding it in. I need to cry. I'm going to let myself cry. Okay. Now I can take a deep breath, and now I can go to sleep, and now I can wake up tomorrow in a different emotional space. And so sometimes that's just what we need to do too. When you have that release, remember to fill yourself back up. Self Reiki from somebody else, Reiki from the different community events that everybody has, things like that. Make sure you're filling yourself back up.
Good advice, Robyn. Something I often say is just, if this is not mine, I release it with love. And so I don't even always have to know, is it mine or not? But if I am feeling uncomfortable and I bring that in, if this isn't mine, I let Reiki know. I release it with love. And then when it leaves, I'm like, oh, good, that wasn't mine. When it does it, I'm like, okay, I've got some work to do. Would you add anything there, Colleen?
I think that was so well said, and there are so many directions to go with the conversation. I would say one of the things that I observe with people with empathy is that a lot of times it can really, in that armor that Robyn was talking about, can really cause them to shut down their actual authentic intellect, their intuition, their imagination, instincts. It can really make people almost afraid of their own abilities, their empathic abilities. And so that's one of the injuries that I see with it. Another one that I can see with it that happens commonly is invisibility, that people will place almost like a cloak of invisibility over themselves to try to manage the empathy. Because a lot of times, what happens too, if you're an empathic person, is people are drawn to you for that. Uh, the other thing I would add with empathy is another area where we can choose the stream of empathy we're in. So, for instance, and this, when we were writing the animal Reiki, this really came into clarity with words, is the awareness that if I am in the grief of the animals, it's painful. And the empathy then actually would stop me from wanting to do that work because it was going to hurt. So, what I learned though is empathy is also, you can place your empathy in all these different levels of consciousness that we're talking about. And Reiki can help you elevate your empathy into the higher frequencies, into like where I can spend this energy with the animals and the joy of the animals and all of that. It's not bypassing everything that's happening, it's contributing to those higher frequencies. And in my experience as a highly empathic person, I think there's just, again, so much of it that Reiki has helped me learn about and develop. My parents were definitely not empathic, so it wasn't something I learned. And it also wasn't really ever talked about in the way that it is now. So it was something I always had to figure out for myself. And I think that's still true for most people that are empathic. Like, how do I manage this? But when I did learn that I could use Reiki to lift my empathy up into the higher fields and connect into those, that also is another part of like my authentic intellect. It's part of, and you mentioned the mental emotional symbol, very specifically aligning you to help you move up into those other fields of consciousness. So let's say you are personally in a situation where you are in the lower fields of consciousness. So, talking about the traumas that are happening in the world right now. So, for if a person is in those, they can still elevate into a state where they have a better clarity about what to do, just as you mentioned in politics. Like it could move you into a different stream of how you addressed it, even in the crisis of it or the trauma of a moment that we know so many people are affected by. So again, it's not bypassing it, it's not being la, it's holding a state of being. And again, for me, I go back to what can I do right now is I can be stable, I can be kind. And those two things just take me back to all the different areas of empathy that I'm managing. Is what do I do in this moment? Stay stable, be kind. Sometimes it might be 30 seconds later that I'm like, okay, stay stable, be kind. Reiki, okay, stay stable, be kind. I may have to repeat it to manage it, but anyway.
That's that is fantastic. And I think I look at it was I too didn't have examples of empathy to follow. And I used to look at my empathy as a curse or something that I struggled with as I was trying to navigate it and trying to figure it out. And in fact, it's probably what brought me into Reiki because it led to unexplained health conditions and so on. But
Mhm.
now I look at that heightened empathy as one of my most valuable tools, one of the biggest gifts and talents is just that ability to tap into that sensitivity. So Reiki did that. Last question, guys, before I ask one of you to lead us in a meditation around this today. But what are some signs that someone has given their authority away? And how can Reiki help us in that instance to bring it back?
I'm gonna let you start with that one. That's a good question.
Boy, because it sure shows up.
Happened in my life. I know that I've given my authority away on more than one occasion. So,
We were actually raised and taught how to do that effectively.
yes.
It was actually a life management skill, like when and where to give your authority away. And I can look at it, but going back to childhood, and I watched how my brothers did authority. I was like, I'm not doing it like that. I will give you my authority here. Because, yeah, that's a much safer and easier place for me to go. Looking at it through my age and the change that I get to see just in today's world with the young people, I absolutely I love the millennials. I love the Gen Zs and this Gen Alpha. Robyn is her daughter. And so you certainly see a recognition of it differently than in my generation. It was almost, in a lot of ways, necessary. Even though I have always been strong and independent, my husband has always supported me in being strong and independent. There were definitely, as a life skill as a woman in my generation. And so, again, it's everything from you can see the extreme examples of where people have given their authority away during times of abuse or giving their authority away from everything from the hardest part of that answer to even just the light, easy ones. And the other thing I will tell you is there are plenty of times that I just look at it with the discernment of Reiki and I don't want to exercise my authority in a given moment and I don't do it. And it's different than giving it away. It's just choosing. I don't have to react here. I don't have to do it this way. I get to pick where my authority is in this moment. But that is also a skill. And so I think that it's one of those topics that again or it's the change of an age.
Mm.
It is truly, to me, it's that big. It's that big there, and it will last for more generations than Gen Alpha because it's going to take some time for that permission to be in our own inner truth and our own inner authority. And how do we do that in a good way collectively? Because it still has to benefit the collective if we are individually in that. We have to be in harmony, and we're really trying to work with unity consciousness now and unification with each other. And I can think of many different instances. A lot of people give their authority away in love,
Hmm.
which is an interesting, and relationship, which is an interesting thing. So that again is it's a vast question. I hadn't thought of it like that, but you think of it like not everybody lives where they have the choice around authority either. We have really a specific level of choice with authority, where there are a lot of people that don't have that choice. So it's an interesting question because we can talk about it from, like in my life, but very different from the life of somebody who doesn't really have that choice.
I can remember you saying in one of the classes we we were in together just about how in your lifetime, and I wasn't aware of this, was just a bit too young, but about Jimmy Carter bringing in the Religions Freedom Act, and that before then, that so many people were not allowed to follow their own spiritual beliefs, and just what a difference that made. And so there are so many, yeah, so many times.
Well, that's what I mean by in my generations, that was 1978. That's when women were allowed to get a credit card without their husband's signature.
Wow.
I was not allowed to, I would not have been, I was married in 1975, and there were so many things that as a woman, I wasn't allowed.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. And those are, talk about segregation and desegregation, the civil rights, the
Yeah.
end of the draft in the United States. My husband was the first year of that.
Wow.
Yeah, we dated in high school. We didn't know if he was going to Vietnam until that year they abolished the draft.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So the history is there. And I think if I really go back to when I first understood in myself, I was in 10th grade when my 10th grade teacher, Red Houghton, talked about Gandhi's teaching of be the change you want to see in the world. And I knew in that moment that was it. That's it. I didn't have the how-to other than to just try to live it. And certainly at that young age, I didn't have all the skills for it. But I think that is going all the way back into that history. I can remember before that, but that was really the time that it was very clear about that, like that purpose and that meaning.
Robyn, is there anything you would add there?
I would say that even with the conversation that both of you are having around it, is that usually it's around safety, whether it's collective or whether it's individual, it's around safety. And I see in a lot of clients that actually, like, you have, and like what you're talking about from that perspective of, oh, I have to give away my authority to remain safe in this situation. I see a lot of the Reiki energy shifting a little bit of that perspective of when actually it was disempowerment being placed on you. And when we shift that perspective of the disempowerment being placed upon you and lifting that from you, lifting that from yourself, it's, oh, wait, this doesn't belong to me. This was placed upon me. This actually didn't necessarily come from me. Yes, we have to, in that perspective, it's, oh, I have to give my authority away to remain safe, or even calling like a little bit of what you were talking about of your experience of to get what I want right in life and navigate the world as a woman in your generation. But if you think about it from the perspective of, oh, that's because somebody else was placing disempowerment upon me, and shifting that perspective brings us back into our power, brings us back into, oh, and that doesn't have to belong to me. And I get to just, and that's one of the things that Reiki does for us. It lifts it off of us. It's in the same concept of forgiveness, that idea of forgiveness, of when this has been placed upon me, that the light of forgiveness, the light just can come in and lift it from me and for me, and that there's nothing that I need to do for this, for Reiki to do this for me. And it's that grace, it's that divine gift that Reiki can come in and help us to do that. And what that does also doesn't make it okay that happened to you, or that's the way the world works. But what that does is it helps us to remain in our sovereignty, right? That nothing that anybody does has the right to have power over me, has the right to disempower me. Nothing has that right. I am sovereign in my own body. Reiki can release that. Doesn't mean I have to be okay with it, but it means it no longer has power over me. And so that's been the shift that I've seen in my own personal practice, also with students, with clients, with that idea of that grace of forgiveness. It's in that same realm with it, but it is a little bit of it's a different version of it. It's a different frequency of a similar idea of, oh yeah, that was placed upon me. I didn't do that.
That wasn't my idea.
This was not my idea. I'm going to release that, and I'm going to step into my empowered, my authentic, my sovereign self.
And I think it's so important to identify with that authentic self, that true self. We talk in healthcare Reiki about the not self, and that sometimes when we identify with the disease or the condition or whatever, that we aren't identifying with our authentic power and who we are. So what a wonderful way to wrap up our conversation, you guys. I ask one of you to lead us into a meditation that just helps us access our sovereignty and our inner authority in these interesting times.
I think that's a perfect place for Colleen. Pam, I actually have a meeting at my daughter's school, so I am going to go ahead and sign off here. I'm sorry about that. It was the last minute thing. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for having me and Colleen, and thank you to everybody who's listening.
Thank you, Robyn. Thank you so much for being here. You added so much to the conversation. I really appreciate it.
It's so fun catching up too. We need to make it not so long.
Thank
So,
you. I
and
agree.
everywhere you can find Colleen, you can find me. So I'm sure you guys will do that at the end or it's in the show notes. So I'll just say that.
All Reiki lifestyle. I don't
Yeah.
know if we ever said that. Reiki lifestyle.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It'll
and
be in
I
the
will
show.
be putting all your links in
Of
the
course.
podcast
Perfect.
as well. Yeah.
All right.
Bye,
Lots of love.
Robyn.
Bye. Lots of love.
Okay. Sure, I would be happy to do that.
Thank you.
Ooh, everybody just close your eyes and take some deep breaths and place your hands comfortably on your body. Open your heart and receive. As you breathe in the light and the power of love by every name it's called, and the power of love fills your breath, flows into your body and awakens and reveals the power of love within you. And as you breathe in the light and the power of the divine mind, and the divine mind travels in on your breath and awakens your divine mind, your higher consciousness and higher thought are present. And as you breathe in the light of the divine mind, your divine mind, human mind, heart mind, and gut mind, earth mind all align. And any of the places where your mind has been scattered or has had excess or extra thoughts and energies that you just are ready, it's almost showing like just shake it off, almost just letting go of all the extra noise as you bring in the light of the divine mind. And it awakens your authentic intellect, awakening your authentic intuition and imagination, awakening your instincts, revealing your inner truth, revealing your inner authority. And as the divine mind aligns and is unified with you and your human mind, it brings into clarity, clarity of this moment and this breath. And so you breathe in the light of creativity, manifestation, ideas, innovation, your way forward, lighting the path ahead of you. And as you breathe in the light and the power of the divine heart, and the divine heart travels in on your breath. And the divine heart fills your heart and shines through your heart light. Your heart light shines in front of you and behind you and on each side. Your heart light shines above you, below you, and within you. And you open your heart and you receive the divine heart of creation and the divine heart of the earth as your spirit ignites and is revealed to you right here in this breath, in this moment, in your life today. And as you breathe in the light and the power of compassion, divine compassion fills your breath, flows into your body, and awakens in your cellular knowledge of your wisdom, your gifts, your talents, your inner knowing. Compassion fills your breath with stability, your intellect, and your personal power. Compassion fills you with peace and clarity of mind and purpose and your way forward. Breathe deeply as you open your heart and receive tree of life, tree of life. Flowing through you now, above, below, and within. Your roots grow deeply around you in a great circle, and the ground underneath you is stable and strong, and you're communicating with the earth, and the earth is nourishing you, and you receive the light of the earth. And remember now, your body is made of the earth to give you life and breath, your spirit right here, right now, within your body. And so you breathe deeply, and your branches reach to the heavens, and you receive the wisdom of the heavens, the wisdom of the divine, and it flows through you and awakens the wisdom within you, the wisdom that you hold within you, that you brought with you into this lifetime, the wisdom of your soul and your spirit. And it shines in your heart light for you to see. Sometimes, though, it can seem as if it's all hidden from your own view. The ways and the worries of the world can get in the way. The injuries of this lifetime, other lifetimes, ancestral histories, sometimes even the lifetimes between the lifetimes, can hold injuries that hide you from you. And those injuries can create what seems like layers and veils over you of forgetting just how extraordinary you are. The beauty of your light, the beauty of your inner knowing and truth. So you breathe in the light of Reiki, and the light of Reiki travels in on your breath and reveals the light within you, and your perceptions expand. All around you are beautiful beings of the light that are here to assist you. The enlightened ones of your heart are here with you. The beloved and sacred ones of your heart are here with you, your spiritual teams and guides. And my spiritual teams and guides are here with all of us. And so we welcome this beautiful gathering of enlightened ones as the light travels and fills your breath and begins to release the cords, connectors, and attachments that have held these layers to you. And the light dissolves them through the power of love and the authority of compassion. And all that you let go of, all of those layers for the reasons they're there, from any time in your soul's history, this lifetime, other lifetimes, ancestral histories, it all just releases and goes into the light where it can all be healed. The burdens of them lifted from you. And as you breathe in, the light fills your breath and it fills the spaces where the attachments were connected, the cords were connected, and heals your body, heals your emotions, your mind, and your spirit. And as you breathe in, the light reveals your sovereignty to you as your inner knowing and gifts and talents begin to reveal and wake up for you. The knowledge you bring with you from the journey of your soul, the lifetimes of mastery and gifts, the lifetimes of skills and abilities and your intellect. And so the light of Reiki wakes all that back up within you. It's all right here in your cellular knowledge, in your genetics, in your DNA. It's here that you brought the knowledge and the wisdom of your soul. And it's all integrated and unified right now. And so you breathe in the light of the divine mind, and it aligns your divine mind, human mind, heart mind, gut mind, and earth mind, connected deeply to the earth, connected greatly to the heavens, as the light of wisdom wakes up within you, revealing your inner truth, and now revealing your inner authority. And you remember now, you do know what you know. Your truth is your truth. It is your divine right to be in your truth. And all the while still living in the human world today, in the 21st century, on the earth, in this sunrise, this sunset, the rhythms of the moon, the sun, and the planets. And you align with the rhythms as you listen and hear the heartbeat of the earth beating in the same rhythm as your own heart. And you listen and hear the heartbeat of creation beating in the same rhythm as your own heart. And your whole body aligns. The colors of the earth rise through you, the colors of the heavens flow through you and fill your body with life force and light force. Look inside and say thank you to you. Take this time to honor you for who you are. We say thank you to each other. Circle's always divinely ordered. And we're so grateful to be in community in the circle of life. Thank you. And we say thank you to the enlightened ones that have joined us and the Reiki energies and the enlightened realms. Thank you. Thank you to the teachers who came before us. And thank you to the descendants who come after. We're listening. Thank you. And so it is.
And so it is.
Mm,
Colleen, thank you.
thank you.
Robyn, for being here today. What a wonderful conversation. I hope it helps people navigate the complexities of our world. Right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome and thank you. And I'm going to leave everybody with a quote that has been so meaningful to me. And again, organizing me into the stay stable, be kind. So Paul Stamets is a mycologist, very world renowned about mycelium. And he was on Mayim Bialik's podcast. And he said, and it really just washed through me, that humanity exists today because of random acts of kindness. That random acts of kindness are humanity's number one trait.
I was hoping you would share that.
It just, because it took me into memories of random acts of kindness. It made me think about them when I'm out and about, made me think of the ones I've received, the ones I've done, and notice the really little ones, like somebody opening the door for you. Thank you. Like just those, or the smile, or just doesn't even have to be anything. It can even be just feeling kind or being patient in a moment or whatever, but we know what that means. But anyway, random acts of kindness are our number one trait.
And I think that just shifts the focus. The news cycle is always going to report the negative. We know that just because that is simply the nature of it. And I think that we need to shift our focus to how much kindness, how much courage, how much beauty is out there.
It
Yeah.
makes a difference. And one of the 5 precepts, just for today, I will be kind.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that one is one, boy, that one has really changed my life. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Colleen. I want to
Thank you, Pam.
thank Robyn and thank everyone who's listening.
Yeah, thank
We
you.
appreciate you. No.
Yeah, thank you.